sweeping the country. An adult version of Capture the Flag that's played with safe, harmless gelatin paintballs. A sport that's physically demanding. It's exhilarating, competitive, and strategic. But most of all, it's a lot of fun. To play the survival game, call this number. The Survival Game, America's fastest growing sport.
It could be a scene from Vietnam, or maybe El Salvador. People dressed in camouflage fatigues, creeping through the bushes and shooting at each other. But the guns here are not real, and this is only a game. The first appearance in Kentucky of a new fad called the National Survival Game. The folks at Cantrell's Grocery near Grafenberg are beginning to get used to this sight. A bunch of otherwise normal-looking people in the parking lot on weekend mornings, struggling into fatigues and daubing their faces with grease paint. Once in the nearby woods, the beginners get a short course in how to handle their weapons.
It's a CO2 cartridge, and that's what charges the gun. The gun you get will already be loaded. You don't have to worry about that. Now, the tape is on the ring here, because if this ring gets hit, it can release your CO2. And if it does, you're in trouble. You've got to put a new one in there, and somebody can shoot you while you're doing it.
Really? The guns themselves are relatively harmless. They shoot marble-sized paint pellets, designed originally for marking cattle or timber. The pellets can sting, though, and safety goggles are mandatory. The survival game was invented several years ago in New Hampshire and has spread to a number of other states. It's being brought to Kentucky by the Cornett brothers of Midway.
I read about it in Life magazine, Time magazine. I saw it on a couple of news things over the last year, and it really fascinated me. And I was up visiting my in-laws in Connecticut 2 months ago, and they had a game close by us there, and we played, and I've never had more fun in my life. I've always been into competitive sports, but there's nothing to compare with this. It's just so intense, great stress relief.
Survival game because it's wild.
The Survival Game, a new sport that's sweeping the country. An adult version of Capture the Flag that's played with safe, harmless gelatin paintballs. A sport that's physically demanding. It's exhilarating, competitive, and strategic. But most of all, it's a lot of fun. To play the survival game, call this number. The Survival Game, America's fastest growing sport.
The game drew about 24 people of both sexes in a wide range of occupations. Lawyers, accountants, real estate salesmen, even a random TV reporter. Some had hunted, only a few had any military experience. And though this may not be everyone's cup of tea, those who tried it loved it.
It was really neat. It was fantasy, you know. Go out in the woods, something that I've always wanted to do, play Army.
I can't really describe how the fear of not being able to get hit, but be able to see somebody and afraid that they're right behind that tree or just around that bush, and then when that sound goes off, just your heart almost stops for a second, and then you got to find out where did it come from, you know, where are they, and then try to shoot them before I get shot myself. So it's a really intense feeling.
The actual play of the game resembles the children's game of Capture the Flag. 2 teams, each defending their own flag, while trying to steal one from their opponents. And in between, all sorts of opportunities for stalking, ambushing, and rousing heroics. There may be those who ascribe some deep sociological significance to the survival game craze, but for these participants, it's just another sport. Being children again, perhaps, but playing children's games with more expensive toys. With photographer Bob Shepard, Wayne Bowman, News Center 27 in Franklin County.
Why do I play the survival game? Because it's wild.
The Survival Game, a new sport that's sweeping the country. An adult version of Capture the Flag that's played with safe, harmless gelatin paintballs. A sport that's physically demanding. It's exhilarating, competitive, and strategic. But most of all, it's a lot of fun. To play the survival game, call this number. The Survival Game, America's fastest growing sport.
City boys or country boys have the stronger survival instinct? Well, a dispute over that question between 2 friends, one of them a New York stockbroker, the other a New Hampshire screenwriter, has led to some unusual testing in the field. Steve Young reports.
Mercenaries in Africa, a CIA operation in Latin America. No, this is the New Hampshire woods. And these people are playing a game, the National Survival Game.
We just want to go over the rules and make sure everybody understands them. The point is to capture the flag and bring it back to your own station.
The players use air pistols designed to mark cattle with cartridges that splatter paint. After target practice, the players themselves will become targets as they try to hit members of the opposing team. The idea of grown men shooting at each other has sparked controversy.
I had to ask myself a lot of ethical questions as to whether I wanted to play or not, but after I weighed it out and decided, met some people and stuff, I'm glad I came because, it's a game. It's nothing more.
We have an image problem, there's no question about that. We'll just have to, put it out there and let people judge for themselves.
Anyone really can do as well as anyone else if they bring a certain competitiveness to it and a certain willingness to go out on a limb. This game is really all about taking chances, but modified chances, chances that are in control.
The game starts with a warning shot to both teams. The two flags are several thousand feet apart.
Go, you're shooting your own nose.
According to the rules, when you're marked by the enemy's paint, you're out of the game, as good as dead. That leaves nothing to do but exchange war stories.
Who got you, Bill? I was diving and he got me. Who got you? I don't know, but he's a good shot.
The morning we watched, the players included a decorated Vietnam combat veteran.
I was cleaning my glasses and a guy shot me in the neck. High tactics.
It actually seemed a little bit ridiculous at the time. I'm a grown man, I'm running through the woods with a gun in my hand. Then they started firing at me. It took on a totally different aspect. I guess a sense of wanting to survive, basically.
It's exactly like playing Army as a kid. And it's, you get all sort of loyal feelings about your team, and worried about the enemy.
So far, the sport has attracted several hundred enthusiasts. Organizers hope to stage national playoffs of what they bill as a grown-up squirt gun game.
We met again, old boy.
One of these days.
Steve Young, CBS News, New London, New Hampshire.
Why do I play the survival game? Because it's wild.
The Survival Game, a new sport that's sweeping the country. An adult version of Capture the Flag that's played with safe, harmless gelatin paintballs. A sport that's physically demanding. It's exhilarating, competitive, and strategic. But most of all, it's a lot of fun. To play the Survival Game, call this number. The Survival Game, America's fastest growing sport.
It's about war, and I guess you'd call real war the ultimate death game. I went to an unreal war a few days ago for a special report in the woods of New Hampshire. Some people call it a death game. Some people call it a war game. In any case, it is a game, and more grown-ups are playing it. Welcome, then, to the National Survival Game.
Man against man.
You got to pay attention to what's going on every second.
Every game's different.
This is New London, New Hampshire. It's a gentle little town set in the powerful beauty of the White Mountains. The trees are beginning to lose the green of summer and take on the reds and golds of autumn. It's a place of peace. It is also the birthplace of the National Survival Game, a game that has the appearance of war. Trying to define the National Survival Game is as difficult as playing it. It looks like war or a war game, but its players say they're peaceful. It has the feel of the hunt. The guns they use are relatively harmless. It could be just a grown-up game of cowboys and Indians, except for the fact that those involved are deadly serious. They're not mercenaries or vigilantes or survivalists, but their mission is to survive. Well, that's the mission its New Hampshire creators had in mind anyway. They wanted to see how well people from different backgrounds could make it in the woods under any circumstances. So they dreamed up the game a little more than a year ago. Since then, thousands of people from New Hampshire, from New York, and beyond have played it.
It's, playing wars and cops and robbers and capture the flag with your buddies.
Significant, first of all, because it's fun to play. and people need fun things to do. It's exhilarating, it's exciting, it gives us a simulated environment of survival. It offers us an opportunity to really, in the playing of the game and in the enjoyment of the game, to find out who we are.
There's a certain amount of adrenaline there. There's a certain amount of you get a real high from playing.
Competitive juice.
Very competitive, extremely competitive. Never played anything like it.
The game is little more than a sophisticated version of Capture the Flag, the game you might have played when you were a kid. In this game, two teams of anywhere from 4 to 40 people each defend a flag at opposite ends of a marked-off section of the woods. The object of the game is to capture the other team's flag and bring it back to your team's home base. The players on each team are armed with their wit, their stealth, some combat gear, protective eye goggles, and most important, an air gun that shoots pellets filled with paint. Hit an opponent with one of the pellets, and the rules say he's dead, and you have one less opponent to deal with. The game's warlike trappings, and in particular the weapon involved, have many observers concerned.
What they are saying to those around them is that this is an acceptable mode of behavior. Not only is it an acceptable mode of behavior, it's fun. War is not a game. It should not be treated as a game. It should not be encouraged to be looked on as a game. It's brutal business that kills people.
These people are grown-ups. They have weapons that look like real guns. They're shooting at one another in a way that doesn't, in fact, hurt the people, but nevertheless is meant symbolically to knock the other off.
Our guns are toys, and in a way they're like an extended hand in tag. And even though they do have a symbolic load to them, a symbolic freight, which we believe gives the game more significance, we don't see them as real guns, and we don't see ourselves when we're out there playing this game as actually leveling down on an enemy.
My experience has been that these people play this because it's fun, not because they're particularly violent, not because they have, they never really lived it out in the woods in Vietnam, not for any of those reasons, just because it's a lot of fun.
The Most Dangerous Game, a movie from the 30s based on a short story from the 20s. Man hunting man. Fiction, but maybe the closest sport of all to the national survival game. The game lacks the physical contact of sports of the day like football, although there is violence implied and pain from the pellets. The game has the mental and strategic element of recreational sports like golf, but the players say it's more of a challenge. The national survival game is really like no other game. How do the traditional folk up in New Hampshire, where the game began, feel about this sport of the future?
As far as the shooting and all that, I can't see there's any really need for it.
It looks like a pretty good game. I understand it's a rage.
I think it's for those people who don't have anything better to do with their time or money.
Why do I play the survival game? Because it's wild.
The survival game, a new sport that's sweeping the country. An adult version of Capture the Flag that's played with safe, harmless gelatin paintballs. A sport that's physically demanding. It's exhilarating, competitive, and strategic. But most of all, it's a lot of fun. To play the survival game, call this number. The survival game, America's fastest growing sport.
Last night, as I began my special report on death games, I introduced you to the National Survival Game. A death game, a war game, whatever you call it, it's a very successful game. More and more people are playing it every day. Who are these people? Why do they want to play? We reach for the answers in part 2 of my special report.
Well, there's a game being played all across this land. That'll test the courage of any good man.
It's the night before the biggest national survival game ever played. As jazz stylist Billy Whiteman plays the unofficial anthem of the game, the crowd packs the bar at the Pleasant Lake Inn in New London, New Hampshire, all of them eager for tomorrow's action. Seldom is heard a discouraging or a sober word about the game.
Let me
excited. It sounds like a lot of fun. Yes, I'm definitely getting excited, yeah.
I just personally think that it's extremely sick and disgusting that people are doing this.
I think this game of survival should be translated into real war games. It might even prevent a final world war.
The popularity of the National Survival Games mock warfare is indisputable. Hundreds have come to New Hampshire to play this bizarre game of guerrilla capture the flag in the past year, and thousands of people are now playing it all across the country. But why are they playing it? Social psychologist Dr. Morton Deutsch thinks the game is a sign of our troubled times.
We're in a period of intense frustration, sense of powerlessness, and people have a need to try to find some way of overcoming these feelings, and I think the game may be one expression.
Fact is that we don't really have too many direct consequences left in this life that we live now in the 20th century. You know, I mean, it used to be if you made a mistake, you saw the consequences of it directly and cleanly, and that's really not true so much anymore.
Writer and the co-founder of the game, Charles Gaines, sees the game as more than just an opportunity to track down an opponent in the woods. He sees it as a chance to track down your own personality.
You find that the game is real self-reflective. It shows you a lot about who you are. I mean, if you're basically an aggressive person, somebody who lives life hard and aggressively and not always watching your flank, you tend to play the game that way. If you're cautious, you tend to play the game cautiously. If you're shrewd and intellectual, you tend to play it that way.
These people who run through the woods come from all walks of life. Vietnam vets and peaceniks, college-educated and high school dropouts, gas station attendants and financial wizards, country boys and city slickers. In fact, the game began with a debate over who could best survive. New Hampshireman Gaines and his friends saying you have to know the country to survive in the country. A friend from New York City argued otherwise.
Life in New York City, chasing a cab, catching a bus, surviving the crush of the subway, the crunch of the people, the crucible of the competition. Good training for survival in the woods? You might be surprised. A lot of people say that if you're smart enough for the streets of the city, you're tough enough for the dark and hidden paths of the backwoods.
I've got to get $2 million to do this thing, and then we can, I think, solve in 20 minutes the problems with the Russians.
Jerome Gary, 35 years old, single, successful film and television producer and director, a New Yorker, national survival game player.
I think strategically, because I'm competing all the time, every day. Strategically, I have a real edge. I think in my experience in playing games is that my strategy's often been correct, but I've been 20 or 30 minutes later out of the woods than a guy that has spent all his life as a woodsman.
In the world that I play in, one is always at risk, taking chances all the while, and I think some Friday afternoons I'm so uptight and worried about some of the judgments that I've made that I can go out into this field of play and really play. It allows me to be a child again and to have a lot of fun.
Ken Barrett, 32 years old, venture capitalist in the financial world of New York City, lives in Westchester, national survival game player.
Albert! Get on, come here. Come on.
Hundreds of miles from New York City and Westchester County to Claremont, New Hampshire. Debbie Dion, 30 years old, owns and manages a country inn restaurant, one of the women who play the national survival game.
After you've played on a team with 20 of these guys, and then you've had a beer with them afterwards, and then you're talking about the game and laughing it up and everything, they're not at all sinister. They're just, good guys having a good time, and it took on a whole different, light.
And finally, Billy Whiteman, age 27, musician, lived in New Hampshire for 13 years, national survival game player.
To play music well, to express yourself well, you have to be aware of everything. And I think this game sharpens your awareness.
In a game that he played out in the wild, a game that he learned perhaps as a child. It's called survival. It's called survival. It's called survival. It's called survival.
Well, now the battle lines are drawn. Jerome, Ken, and their friends on one side, Debbie, Billy, and their friends on the other. The streets of New York versus the woods of New Hampshire. And tomorrow we continue my special report with the Super Bowl of the National Survival Game. And may the best survivors survive.
Why do I play the survival game? Because it's wild.
The survival game, a new sport that's sweeping the country. an adult version of Capture the Flag that's played with safe, harmless gelatin paintballs. A sport that's physically demanding. It's exhilarating, competitive, and strategic. But most of all, it's a lot of fun. To play the survival game, call this number. The Survival Game, America's fastest growing sport.
Telling you about the National Survival Game. Should it be called a death game? Tonight we want you to be the judge of that. 25 people playing on each team, City Slickers versus Country Boys, in a game we've reconstructed from a full day of action. And so we present the World Series, the Super Bowl, the Stanley Cup of the National Survival Game. Early Saturday morning, Sutton, New Hampshire, the exit off Interstate 89. People are gathering for the biggest national survival game ever played. 50 people set to play more than a game, a battle of country cunning versus city smarts. Yesterday, we introduced you to one team, spearheaded by the New Yorkers. Film and TV producer Jerome Gary, financier Ken Barrett. The other team, New Hampshire types like Debbie Dion, who runs an inn in the country, and backwoods jazz musician Billy Whiteman. All ready for the kill. Most of them a little bit hungover from the night before.
Well, a lot of people here today. Really? Yeah. The smart thing to do today is dig a hole. Stay in it for an hour.
The players loosen up with their weapons. Carbon dioxide pistols, air guns really, that shoot plastic pellets filled with paint.
When you shoot someone, or you're in combat, if you have to look at the weapon, you're going to get killed.
See how far this thing goes?
No. Awful far, Ken. I didn't even see it.
This was offered as a way to cover up the white sneakers.
We're going for aesthetics here, Greta. We're not going
I'm going for aesthetics.
All right. All right.
Don't you want to just be hidden in the woods?
Yeah,
Charles?
I do.
Ken Barrett, Debbie Flanders. Debbie's not needed enough.
The team split up. The team players are tagged. Yellow for New York, red for New Hampshire.
Now, a few things about the rules. I'll try to keep this as short as possible, but those of you who are new,
the game's co-founder and spiritual leader, Charles Gaines, goes over the rules. 2 flags will be put at opposite ends of the field. Each team will be defending its own flag, trying to capture the other team's flag and to bring it back to its own flag station without getting killed, hit by paint. If you are, you're out of the game. Now it's into the woods. The troops move to their positions to plan strategy. The New York-led team at one end of the property.
We're going to run into a skirmish right here. Yeah, we've got a point group, but I think I think ultimately you guys are going to have to be going in there.
The New Hampshire squad working their battle plan at their base.
We have to be in situations where we get good shots off.
Before you shoot, jump, have the next spot that you're going to go to already picked out in your mind's eye.
Game leader Gaines sounds the horn. And the hunt is on. New Yorkers Gary and Barrett form the Suicide Squad and their teams fight for the flag.
You going up? Jeremy, about 50 feet. Where's the rest of the group? You guys moving up? Got him. Got him. That way, you're gone. Come on up.
Barrett dies an untimely death.
Who shot me? Good boy, Tony. That was a hell of a shot. Ta-da!
Yeah, I think we ought to go up in pairs.
But Gary goes on.
Let's do this time with 2 covering. This is the best route right up this gully. Wait! Good for hours?
Meanwhile, defending the New Hampshire flag, for Debbie and Billy, it's a game of watching and waiting and wandering.
Red, I think that's the guy right over there. It's on the other team. He would have answered me back if he was on my team.
Are you out?
Let's get everybody together here. We're getting close.
Steve, I wouldn't go any further. Let them come.
Stay high on them.
New Yorker Gary finally makes it close to the New Hampshire flag. He's gunned down.
I lost 2 members of my squad just hanging back in the woods. And we just can't win that way. We've all got a more or less attack. And then we got, God knows how many guys in here.
Another New York attempt on New Hampshire, beaten down.
All the firefights been up there. 2 guys came through and we took them out. Well, this squad that I've been holding here in the middle is going out now.
All right.
While the New Hampshire defense holds firm, the New Hampshire offense is off and running, capturing the New York flag.
Got you! Get a flag! Get a flag!
They blast their way back across open ground. And bring home the bacon.
You got it. All right.
Red team does it again. All these people joined in. We just cleaned house as we went up to their flag, and we booked it all the way back. It was decent.
After a long, hard day of playing, for the players of New Hampshire, the thrill of victory.
We did great! Red team!
Well, it worked. We won, just like I said we would.
And for the New Yorkers and their teammates, the agony of defeat.
Terrible game. You played a terrible game.
For those of us observing, our chance to play will come another day.
Why do I play the survival game? Because it's wild.
The survival game, a new sport that's sweeping the country. An adult version of Capture the Flag that's played with safe, harmless gelatin paintballs. A sport that's physically demanding. It's exhilarating, competitive, and strategic. But most of all, it's a lot of fun. To play the survival game, call this number. The survival game, America's fastest growing sport.
The National Survival Game. To some people, a death game with antisocial overtones. To others, nothing but good, clean fun. The best way to find out what it is to play it. So tonight, with Bob Guernsey, who helped create the game, and some of the others who play in the woods of New Hampshire, I go up close and personal with the National Survival Game. With a camouflage suit that looks as though it came right off the shelf on Madison Avenue, and sneakers that are getting their first taste of New Hampshire dirt. Not bad. They're too new, Charles. They're too new. They look ridiculous. The people who are devoted to the National Survival Game say that in order to understand it, you've really got to take part in it. You've got to play it. So, strictly by way of enlightening our audience, I've decided to run off into the woods and be a little kid again.
Well, I don't know if I want to get hit by one of those paint pellets.
What does it feel like?
Oh, it can hurt a little bit.
Well, how much? Like a...
Oh, like a racquetball. You played a racquetball before, you got whacked in the back.
That much or more?
Oh, much more.
It's like a bee sting.
If you want to stand over there, we'll show you.
Let's do it the James Bond way. That's better.
This is the professional. I think you get a little too much pain there.
We're going down for a strategy session now, man.
Yeah, we're going to go down.
Okay, let's choose a buddy, okay? First of all, who wants to...
Gerard and I?
Bill and I'll go together.
And Gerard?
You and Gerard?
I thought that was a gun. I thought you were shooting at me.
Come on, hurry up. They're coming. We're going to go down here in group, and then you, our 3 squad, and the other 2 are going to break and go across the road. And then we're going to try and come in from behind them.
We're just going to run across
Jim,
the road.
go ahead. Let's get them.
I didn't think I'd have this reaction, but I can feel the old heart pumping away. Because I don't want to get shot.
You wait until we wave you across.
Okay. Each guy is going out far now.
Oh, he's going to go out far enough till he thinks it's safe. For us to come
My
up
hands
there.
are sweating.
Then we're going around him. Yeah, and then the 3 of us are going around him. Go ahead, Gerard.
thought I'd be doing this.
You, Jim, and I are going to go even further down to come in from behind. But we'll move faster once we drop these two guys off.
Okay. They're shooting.
Off to the left, Joe.
My left?
On the road. Watch your turn. He's right here. Watch it. He's good. That's right.
I see him. It's a lot of fun.
Right over there.
Oh, good for you.
50 yards.
Everything they said about it, the excitement of it is all there. For good or bad, it's all there. Oh, there's something. Somebody running. Might be one of ours, though.
Watch it. Over on the right. So, I'm hit.
You guys, when you're right there, Bob.
Watch it.
Jesus Christ. This is the scary part. I know there's somebody over there, but I can't see him. I think he's crawling along his belly. And I've got to get out of here. All right, whistle. Jesus, if they're here, they're hiding well.
If I'm out, you're on your own.
Okay. You can be very sure they're covered the flag. I can see the flag now. But I can't believe it's this easy. I didn't hear anybody on the left.
There he is. Where? See him in the trees on left?
No, I don't. Oh, there he is. Too far for me. I'm out. Right there in the arm. I guess it isn't who win or loses, but how you play the game. We played the game pretty well, as a matter of fact. And I'll have this to take home with where I got hit by one of the pellet balls. I survived the national survival game. For myself, the first time around, I was a little bit scared, surprisingly scared, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, I heard you were shaking.
Yeah, right.
I'd be more than happy to go with you again. And hopefully we wouldn't make the same mistakes that we made. But I'd rate your overall performance
on a scale of 1 to 10.
On a Bo Derek scale?
Yeah, Bo Derek scale.
We'll give you a 6.5.
That's not bad for the first time around. I accept that.
Because it's wild.
The survival game, a new sport that's sweeping the country. An adult version of Capture the Flag that's played with safe, harmless gelatin paintballs. A sport that's physically demanding. It's exhilarating, competitive, and strategic. But most of all, it's a lot of fun. To play the survival game, call this number. The survival game, America's fastest growing sport.
We're designed for our own backyard. Only here, opponents can retire to a can of beer and some friendly war stories.
Attention, attention. I'd like to welcome everyone to the meeting of the survival game. I know a lot of you people are new and haven't played the survival game before.
A game plan meeting is usually held the night before to familiarize new players and pick opposing teams.
On the red team, we have my brother Ray. On the blue team, we have me. We're going to win. What can I say? Where's the red team? I want to hear something.
It all comes together on 60 wooded acres outside of Tamiami Airport. Here, at $16 a shot, these people have come to dress and equip themselves for a mock war. For the time being, their thoughts of a dog-eat-dog business world can be set aside. Instead, survival is all that matters amongst the most unmatched participants you could find.
I'm a veterinarian assistant.
I'm a student at University of Miami.
Cable repairman for the Bell system. You just live now? I'm a realtor.
The basic survival kit is simple. A colored armband to mark your team, a carbon dioxide pistol, and pellets filled with paint to burst on impact. Being shot is no worse than the sting of a snapping towel, but the eyes must be protected with safety goggles. Once equipped, the game is ready to get underway.
Red team ready? 10-4, blue to base. Give them 10 seconds and hawk to horn.
Okay, all teams ready? All right.
For the next 2 hours, it will be brother against brother in a game that seems all too real. The goal is simply to capture the enemy flag at the opposite end of the field. But between here and there is a jungle of resistance. Survival becomes a frame of mind, where reality is thick underbrush, the grip of a pistol, and somewhere out there, the enemy.
You can see his goggles right over there. He's going down the path.
When you're out here and you don't know where anyone is, your heartbeat picks up 150 beats per minute. Your palms start sweating. You know someone's out there, but you don't know exactly where they're at. I guess that's what makes the game so much fun. Don't shoot, don't shoot. Okay. Watch this guy right here.
Okay, she's hit.
We've only got 30 minutes left to get the flag. We gotta go for it now.
Some people tend to lay back, other people are more aggressive, but when they're in a position of threat, they seem to react the same way.
Any pain?
The most exciting thing is if you get close enough to a person to make eye-to-eye contact. You can almost see the fear, or you can see the confidence in that person, and you react accordingly.
Another blue team member is eliminated, giving the red team a clear shot at the flag.
You're making minute-to-minute, moment-to-moment decisions, all the object of capturing a meaningless piece of cloth.
War game is over. The red team will be leaving the field as victors. But for all the players, a day of survival has given them a needed change of pace, a release of aggression, and an unforgettable treasure of war stories.
I don't think it's a question of really winning or losing. Of course, I would have liked to have won, but it's not that bad. I still went away with a smile, and I enjoyed myself, and it was exciting for the time that I did play. Almost won. Almost won.
Last October, the next...
Fantasy. Streets of Fire. Rated PG. Starts Friday at select theaters. Check newspaper for showtimes.
I'm making my move to Canada Dry. So long, the sweet thing. He's ready to try.
A soft drink that's right, ginger ale crisp and light.
She's changing her taste. She's raising her sight.
I'm making my move to ginger ale so dry.
He's making his move, and dry is why we're making our move
to Canada Dry.
Aren't you ready for Canada Dry ginger ale?
Running authority, Jim Fix.
When I warm up before a run, I find that it's a good idea to use Bengay.
That's right. Not just after exercise, but before. Warming up plus Bengay helps you get ready for action. Helps you loosen and tone muscles so you can run more comfortably, longer, to help you do your best. So whenever you're planning to exercise, use Bengay before and Bengay after. Feel better with Bengay.
Thanks.
You know, sometimes when you want to belong so bad, you'll say yes to anything. Well, before you say yes to drugs or alcohol, you better know what you're in for. Psychological dependence, total burnout, deteriorating health, and yes, sometimes death. Now, that's why, as hard as it may seem now, you gotta say no to drugs and alcohol, because if you just say no, you'll be saying yes to a whole lot more.
and Judge Cole. Just coming in now.
Erwin! There's been a terrible mistake.
Get him into interrogation. Take Captain Frillo. Judge Cole, you've been advised.
Erwin, listen to what I'm trying to tell you.
I suggest you have an attorney present.
There was absolutely no need for an attorney. What you'll hear in that tape is my trying to elicit evidence after felonious solicitation.
What about these, Judge? What were you trying to elicit in the bus depot?
I was in a bus terminal. What's that supposed to prove?
We have pictures of you picking up a bag of money. We have the bag, $10,000 in cash inside. We have the wire, and we have you.
But I'm not going to prosecute you, Judge. I'm turning you. You're going to give us faces, names, and places. And then you're going to resign in disgrace, which is what you are.
I just got a call. We lost the tail on Seltzer. Yeah. He shook it. Trying to pick it up. A guy like that's got a lot of mouse holes.
Any real bad feelings, Frank?
Bob?
All of it. You've got people openly making and receiving bribes. That establishes habit and duration. It establishes a belief of impunity.
Let's see where it goes, Erwin.
I'm trying to make a point, Frank.
I know. And I'm saying to take it easy.
My point is this. If this is in the fabric of things, if you've got a pervasive corruption, driving up, I'm thinking this could go anyplace. This could reach into my own office. I'm a company man, Frank. It scares me not knowing who to trust.
We could start with each other, Erwin.
I'd appreciate that. I'd appreciate having someone to talk to.
Same for me.
Thanks, Frank. Sorry about getting so nervous.